De Blasio has a double standard for gatherings of big groups. A Black Lives Matter mural is painted outside Trump Tower. Seattle to defund cops by 50%. Goya Foods CEO under fire. Will the Biden debate actually happen with Trump and Pompeo on TikTok? Coming up. Welcome, my friends, to the Buck Sexton Show. Thank you very much for being here. An honor, as always. Oh, my, we've got so much to get to today, and I know it's Friday, so it feels like that show flies by. We'll get to your voicemails later on. We'll have producer Mark joining in on some of that fun. We've got a special guest for you later on. Oh, my gosh, so much coming up. But I want to get right to what you're seeing if you were to say, do what I did this morning. I turned on CNN. And I know you're thinking, Buck, why do you do this to yourself? Why do you abuse your eyes and turn your brain into mush first thing in the morning? Well, I do it so that I can bring you the most up-to-date and the most accurate assessment of what the lib journos are up to. And certainly you can tell right now we're back to all-out COVID panic all across the country. That if you are listening to the national news media, you're supposed to just think, all right, let's just all lock down again. Let's just do this again. Let's go for it. And that, for some of us, I can understand if you're particularly frightened and you're at high risk, as we've talked about so many times. If you want to take precautions because things are bad in your area, if you're a healthcare worker and you're worried about hospital capacity, that's one thing. But now we're seeing the argument being made that it has to be national. You see, this is what, it's not just, things are going badly in Texas with COVID or in Florida and they're setting records. It's, well, because it's going badly there, let's have everywhere else locked down again. Even in New York, where there were 9 people who died from COVID-19 yesterday in the whole state. Very, very few new cases. Massachusetts, very few. New Jersey, very few. No one really knows exactly what's happening here. All right, all the people that are telling you, it's because we didn't do what the people told us. It's all our fault. No, that's not true. All right, California has been on super lockdown, very strict for months and months, and California is having spikes in cases too. It seems that one possible interpretation of these events is that there is an inevitable spread that happens once this gets into a community, and unfortunately it will burn through the community at some level, and then it will move past it. So here in New York, because there were so many infections, we may in fact be less susceptible, hopefully, to a repeat of such wide-scale, broad spectrum, and incredibly lethal infection. But that same phenomenon, that same wave seems to be hitting other places across the country now. It's clearly a big issue in Arizona and Texas and Georgia and Florida months after the reopen. So we also don't really have a lot of data, a lot of answers to this. And I told you I would revisit this as new information came out. But remember, we were told that certain states needed to be in absolute lockdown when other states weren't having a lot of cases. And now that those states have already gone through the lockdowns, states that didn't are now the justification to lock down again for everyone else, right? So this is why we want national mask mandates, national this, national that. No, absolutely not. This, as we know, is a combination of bad policy, very politically, obvious to me at least, politically minded decisions with the election coming up. The president understands this. He told me in the Oval Office, I said, it was the last thing we talked about before I left. I said, President Trump, Mr. President, please, no second lockdown push. Don't freeze everything again and shut down everything. Well, we can't do that. And I know that the states have a large part of the decision making here, but the federal government was really pushing states as well and using its powers for a lockdown. The president said he wouldn't do it. Here we are with the latest from him on why, even though, yes, there are spikes in cases, and yes, now it is additional hospitalizations, and the death rate has gone up substantially in a few of these states, it is still not the right move to lock down the country again. Still, it is still not the right move. Play clip 17.
A policy of never-ending lockdowns month after month would ultimately do more harm than good to public health, and so bad for our children. As we saved millions of lives, now it's time to get back to work. A lot of people were against those bans, and now they admit, most of those same people admit that ban was the greatest thing, saved so many lives. Crucially, we realize that the health of a nation's economy is fundamental to the health of its people. In the last 2 months, we have begun the fastest economic comeback in history.
I hope the president sticks to it on this, but it's also not entirely up to him. Democrat governors will be viewed as heroes by their own party. I mean, everyone knows what the game is here, right? Even if you don't have a lot of cases, you don't have a lot of deaths from COVID-19 in your state, lock down for a month or two. Just make sure that it's impossible to get any real momentum before the November election. That's what is motivating a lot of the decision making right now. I think it's quite clear. There's also no honest discussion about, well, what are the new metrics then? If we're being told that this was about hospital capacity, we can handle that. But no, now it's back to crush the virus. There's this false narrative you're hearing of some places crush the virus. We didn't. America has been bad at this. Other places have been great, as if we can't see the numbers per capita of countries around the world. Western European nations, very similar to ours in a lot of regards, have had a much worse response to this. The only exception would be Germany's about the same as ours. Other Western European countries, large ones, Italy, the UK, had far worse spread and lethality from this. And somehow there's also a theory out there now that Democrat governors in places like New York and New Jersey, Cuomo and Murphy, respectively, did a great job with this, when even with the spikes in Texas and Florida have been far better so far in their, it's not even close in their response to this. So narrative is overtaking reality and facts. That much is for sure. But you would also think that if, because as I was watching CNN, it's just they've got the ticker of number of cases, number of people dying, and they just have the only purpose that they'll go through all day long is just look at how bad things are. Look at how bad things are. Look at how terrible things are. Blame Donald Trump. Blame Donald Trump. That's what you are getting, a dose of all day long. That's what they're talking about. And wear a mask. Wear a mask, even though if you want, you can go and do a quick search, and maybe I should start posting some of these on Facebook or something. You can see that the most detailed and recent studies you can find on cloth masks to prevent the spread of influenza range from we can't prove any benefit to it might actually even be worse to wear a cloth mask. There are people, experts, who will say, no, wear a mask. But when you actually look at the scientific studies that have been done on this, where they try to prove what the theory, remember the theory is over 100 years old, but no one really challenges it. It makes people feel better. I think it's largely a psychological thing now. People think, oh, masks, healthier, safer. They want to believe that. But, and again, if you want to wear a mask, go ahead. I don't have a problem with anyone wearing, I could be wrong. Maybe it's, great. Maybe it reduces virus transmission by 50%. Why no study can show that? I'm curious. But I have a problem with the mandates that are going on. So you have that push to just make America miserable again, which is what the Democrats are doing. Make sure that this looks like it's ineptitude from the federal government. Meanwhile, what are we supposed to do? We all agreed, it seemed, as a society, that the lockdown has to be limited duration, and then we got to just go and learn to manage this and live with it. And now we're forgetting that again. It's like we never had that conversation as a country a few months ago, and everyone's panicking and freaking out. But then you have Democrats who show you also that they're entirely unserious about doing anything worthwhile while this is happening. Bill de Blasio, former Democrat presidential candidate. I don't think he could even get 1% of the vote, but he runs America's largest city, which unfortunately I am stuck in during this whole nightmare of the pandemic. And you're seeing this in other cities, other states too. Texas, you guys have a lockdown now, right? I know this was mostly a New York problem And everyone said, oh, the subway, the subway. No, it looks like it's a lot more than just the subway that can lead to super spread of this, unfortunately. But I mean, that was just a good guess, that everybody sort of had, because that's where you have a huge concentration of people every day. But really, I think the main areas, the worst thing you can do is be indoors for a long period of time with people. So family spread is a huge concern. But you have Bill de Blasio taking this moment when he is supposed to be a leader on the issue of public health, right? It's got 8 million people. Think about the 8 million people who this complete nincompoop gets to just make these determinations like he's Caesar or something. This is how it shall be by decree of de Blasio. You know what he did yesterday? Spent the day painting a mural of Black Lives Matter. And to say it's a mural, I mean, it's really just writing in letters. I mean, to call it a mural makes it sound like it's a work of art. No, they're painting a sign on the street on Fifth Avenue in New York City, right outside of Trump Tower. Play clip 2.
We are saying Black Lives Matter in New York City and Black Lives Matter in the United States of America. Let's show Donald Trump what he does not understand. Let's paint it right in front of his building for him.
Not only is this abject buffoon doing this while Democrat talking points across the country are that Trump has mishandled coronavirus and we all need to be terrified again. Even though, remember, states were allowed to reopen at their pace, and they're not reopened. Can we stop with this? They have not. We still have restrictions. You still can't go to the gym. You still can't go to sports games and stuff. I mean, we're continuing to get dragged through these restrictions and talk about it like, oh, well, we went back to normal and this is what happens. No, we started to go a little bit back to normal. So what's the answer? Never go back to normal? Hide and wait for a vaccine. We've always been told that's not the strategy. And then the second that things get scary, they say hide and wait for a vaccine. We go, this is the cycle. Oh, no, we can't do that. We recognize how stupid that is as a policy. Uh-oh, COVID cases are spiking in a place. Everybody hide. We got to wait for a vaccine. It's not hide for a week or a day. It's let's give this another couple of months. De Blasio has canceled events in New York City, has canceled them through September. Okay, he will not allow street fairs, any large outdoor. These are outdoor activities. Now, those of us who are here, and you know that much of the media narrative is determined in New York, and then it's blasted out through the rest of the country because this is the main place where the journos live, mostly in Brooklyn, but also on the Upper West Side and a couple of other places in the city where the CNN anchors and the HuffPo bloggers all congregate. But de Blasio has canceled large outdoor events, and in what is really a perfect example of the double standards that we're supposed to choke down during this COVID pandemic, he was asked, what about the big protests that are going on? I mean, those are huge protests that are happening. And, there was a piece yesterday. I mean, you gotta just, it's unbelievable. There was a piece yesterday that said, I'm trying to find it exact. Oh, yeah. Protests may have spread coronavirus, some cities admit. This was on Yahoo News. I responded, yeah, but they wore masks. They did wear masks, still sort of. What does de Blasio say about big protests? He's banning you in New York from doing stuff. So outside. What about the big protests? Here's what he says. Play 5.
Outdoor concerts, and it means things like parades. Things that here in the city can mean not just thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. It's just not time for that now.
What about protests? If people want to march down Fifth Avenue, are they going to be allowed to do so?
Look, Wolf, this is always an area of real sensitivity. If you're just talking about health, we would always say, hey, folks, stay home if you can. But we understand at this moment in history, people are talking about the need for historic changes. I mean, today in New York City, recognizing the power and the meaning of the message Black Lives Matter, which we did in front of Trump Tower today. This is a historic moment of change. We have to respect that, but also say to people, The kinds of gatherings we're used to, the parades, the fairs, we just can't have that while we're focusing on health right now.
So you heard him say there's a double standard here. This is political bias through the law. I don't understand how this can't be illegal. You have somebody, this is viewpoint discrimination with state resources. It's exactly what this is. This is a historic moment. Black Lives Matter has already gone through this whole thing before. You know what got better for people? You know what improved as a result of this movement? Nothing. Oh, but it's a historic moment now. Yeah, sure it is. In 6 months, we'll look back and be like, what were they even talking about? Toppling statues, running around the street, looting, lighting stores on fire, yelling at cops, defund police. This is wrong. Oh, it's all about saving lives. It's all about dealing with COVID until there's protests. And then all of a sudden, these protests are worth people dying for? Is that what they're telling us? Dying from COVID? These protests aren't going to do anything worth anybody dying for. I can assure you of that. Working from home is driving up one of the worst kinds of theft out there online, home title theft. Here's how it works. Your home's information is out there online, and the bad guys use cyber intrusions to steal that data. Then they set up a loan against your home, take all that cash, and you get stuck with the payments. This is a crime the FBI is warning people about all the time, but banks, insurance, and basic identity theft services don't really protect you. Your home's title is online where the bad guys can forge your signature and state that you sold your home to them. So you got to protect yourself with Home Title Lock. Home Title Lock puts a virtual barrier around your home's title. So take that step right now. Go to HomeTitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're already a victim. Use code BUCK for 30 free days of protection to help you get through this crisis. HomeTitleLock.com. Again, go check it out for yourself. HomeTitleLock.com. Use code BUCK. In case it's not bad enough that there's a de Blasio double standard, what about the violence in the city that has gotten so much worse, 40% or so up for shootings and homicides? And no one can deny city's gotten more violent. It's much worse than it was. And he's out there with people painting a sign in the middle of the street. Yeah, that's how we're going to conquer racism. And they did it outside of Trump Tower. I mean, this is all very obvious. It's just political. It's just nonsense. But here's what he says about the violence that's going on in communities. Play clip 10.
What we're going to do immediately, the NYPD is shifting deployments, moving officers where the need is greatest, working with communities. And this is always the crucial part. You can't just do it with police. You need community leaders, clergy, community organizations to come together. We're having a particular issue in Harlem, and we've gathered community leaders from all over Harlem who in common cause this weekend are going to be out there with the police, shoulder to shoulder, saying we're not going to allow this violence in our community. The second piece is to get our court system up and running. It's been at a very low speed. The criminal justice system in this state is not fully functioning, and that's creating a lot of problems. Even when police arrest someone, the consequences aren't there. So we've got to get that back up and running, and that's absolutely been a victim of the coronavirus, that we were missing one of the most important pieces of the equation.
Let me tell you what this moron is not telling you. They got rid of cash bail in New York, so bail reform, quote, bail reform means that people that commit crimes get out basically right away. So it's not about the court system not functioning. They changed the court system like idiots so that now it can't actually do very much. And also undermining all of your cops. You can have some event where you say you like your cops. Guess what? Police force does not feel supported in this city and a lot of other cities. Well, what's this really all about? Why do we have murals being painted in, and to call it a mural, I think, is to aggrandize what's going on. Why do we have signs, political slogans, painted at public expense in New York, in San Francisco, in Washington, D.C.? What's going on with all that? Well, as we know, they'll say that this is about coming to terms with our past or confronting historical wrongs. But what it's really about is Donald Trump and how much the Democrats hate him and how much they are seeking not only to defeat him in the fall, but to drag, immiserate, and humiliate all of his supporters as much as they possibly can in the process. This was yesterday. Remember, we've got a city with spikes of violence and shootings, and nationwide, you have real concerns over this continuation of the spread of COVID-19, of coronavirus. And they're out there, de Blasio's out there with Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton's there. I don't think it surprises anybody. Painting this mural outside of Trump's house. Right, because this is really all about Trump for them. And you could say, wait, isn't that absurd? Yes, exactly. It's deranged. It's crazy. It doesn't make sense to a normal person. But de Blasio made it personal yesterday. He made it clear what's really going on here. Play clip 3.
Wolf, it was such an important message. The people of this city believe Black Lives Matter, and we wanted to send that message to our whole city, but to our whole nation. And in fact, here was an opportunity for the President of the United States to show respect for the fact that that's what we value here. And what did he do? He literally tweeted that writing Black Lives Matter on Fifth Avenue would, quote unquote, denigrate the luxury of that avenue. That is pure racism. That is acting like an acknowledgement of the value of black people is somehow belittling, when in fact what we're trying to do is lift up people who have built this city and built America and haven't been given their respect. And it can't just be words, Wolf. It has to be actions. So we're taking resources from our police department and putting it into youth programs.
Yeah, youth programs. That's going to stop people from murdering individuals in broad daylight, including when they're walking with their 6-year-old daughter, which happened here in New York recently. That's really going to stop it. Look, this is just about egos between people in positions of leadership, right? De Blasio, this guy's an egomaniac. It's amazing. He's not charming. I've never met a human being who is even vaguely intelligent who likes Bill de Blasio. Never, including Democrats. And he has this feud with Trump. Ultimately, he also is bitter because he believes that a country that would elevate Donald Trump, and this is true of many Democrats, wherever you are across the country right now, your Democrat mayor or governor or, member of Congress, whatever, trust me, they're all angry at this country. They think that America needs to be punished for electing Donald Trump. And they're willing to help make that punishment happen. They're willing to do whatever it is they can, whatever they have to. And in case you were wondering, to what extent is de Blasio willing to go in order to make the case about, he says, Trump is being racist and all this stuff. This is about liberation, the mayor of New York said. There's liberating the street. It's amazing. Play 4.
We need to take this transcendent moment and get the most out of it. But the president, rather than having a chance to acknowledge America's original sin, he literally made it worse by suggesting that honoring black people on Fifth Avenue would somehow make it less valuable or luxurious. I got to tell you, people are outraged by that, but more importantly, they're speaking out, and folks today felt jubilant and triumphant. We were not denigrating Fifth Avenue. We were liberating Fifth Avenue by putting those crucial words right there in front of President Trump's building.
The crucial words that are the name of a Marxist movement that seeks to destroy the nuclear family and create socialism in America, among many, many, many other policy issues that it openly takes. But see, he's a perfect example. De Blasio is he is putting on a clinic of what the real purpose of the Black Lives Matter movement is. They call it Black Lives Matter so that anyone who criticizes it, it's like they're saying they don't care about black lives. It's such a dishonest rhetorical trick. It's a trap. So they get to promote the movement, and then we all say, well, hold on a second, but I disagree with the movement. You disagree with Black Lives Matter? Are you saying that those lives don't matter? Of course no one's saying that. Morons, right? Total morons do this, but it works. It works. Somehow we live in a country where everyone's constantly in fear of being called racist, and the left has created an atmosphere where they say that everything is basically racist all the time. We're all racist, even though being called a racist will ruin you and destroy you, right? There's racism everywhere. There's just constant racism, and yet that's something that gives anyone who makes the allegation tremendous power. So either we're a society that's just fine with racism, or there are people that are lying about this and exploiting it because we're actually hypersensitive about racism and talk about it all the time. And that helps certain political interests gain power. That's what's really going on. And we understand. You can see it. It's so obvious. We're liberating Fifth Avenue. Oh, my gosh. No one's even going to remember. No one's even going to remember this. You know, in 6 months, people walk by like, did they really paint Black Lives Matter on the street? What was that all about? What's getting better? What's changing for the better? Defunding cops? That's a stupid position, right? That's aggressively stupid. So that's not going to be something that anyone looks back on with fondness. So what is changing for the better? Trump losing the election. That's the actual answer in their mind. Everything else is just make-believe stuff. I mean, except for some of the true activists, some of the hardliners who think that this is going to bring about something better. I mean, you want to talk about what's going on. Nancy Pelosi was asked yesterday about tearing down statues. And this is the most powerful elected Democrat in the country right now.
She's always just kind of just says stupid things. They ask her, and she's just,
This is who the Democrats want to lead. I mean, I find Nancy Pelosi so both odious and unimpressive, but Democrats, they just love it. They love it because she's just a really nasty, vicious partisan who has no remorse for what she says or does, doesn't care, fights as dirty as she can, a completely ruthless demagogue. That's what they want. That's what they like. You know, Pelosi's a political knife fighter. That's why Democrats like her so much. And why do they hate Trump so much? Because he actually shows up and, usually it says he wants to fight back too. I'm telling you, Trump still doesn't have the fight and the fire in the belly right now that we need from him. It's not there. We'll talk more about that later. I don't know what it's going to take. We're going to have to figure that out, though, real soon. But here's Pelosi when she's asked about statues and what needs to be done what is a good policy, or how should we think about the tearing down of statues. Here she is. Play clip 1.
Statue there, the statue shouldn't be there. That doesn't diminish my pride in my Italian-American heritage and the fact that it was a country discovered by an Italian, named for an Italian, Amerigo Vespucci. So I have that pride, but I don't care that much about statues.
Respectfully, shouldn't that be done by a commission or the city council, not a mob in the middle of the night throwing it into the harbor?
People will do what they do. It is. I do think that from a safety standpoint, it would be a good idea.
She kind of just muttered it there. I don't know if you really caught it, but she said,
people will do what they do.
People will do what they do? Wow, let them eat cake Nancy showing us exactly who she is here. You're like, yeah, let the rabble just destroy things. That's what they're going to do. They're going to destroy statues, rip them down. We're not going to tell them to stop. Come on. This is good for Democrats right now. We got Republicans playing defense all the time. Every moron can go on CNN and be like, what about Confederate statues? We're like, oh, yeah, you mean like Gandhi and Christopher Columbus, those traitors to the American ideal, right? It's just, this is what you have. A complete absence of any seriousness on policy, on ways to get the country moving in the right direction again. It's just lock down, be miserable, be terrified, and let's all sit around for more, honestly, pointless lectures from activists about how racist America is. That's what the Democrats really stand for right now. And the misery that people are going through, the isolation, the destruction of businesses, the free fall that some entire industries are in, the children who can't go to school, the hopes and dreams of small business owners smashed. They don't care about any of that. They got more important stuff to think about. That's the Democrat approach. That's why Nancy's like, yeah, people are going to do what they do. They're going to tear down statues, whatever. What are you going to do about it, Republicans? You know, last week or so, we heard a lot of stuff from Trump about, oh, we're going to lock up the people that are doing the statues. Okay. We've seen less statues destroyed this week, so maybe that's working from that angle. But where's the counter narrative? Where's the fiery speech, not just from Trump, from the people around Trump, from the Republican Party? I mean, the Republican Party right now, it just looks like it's like it has been neutered. It's like no one has any backbone. No one has any willingness to get into the fight right now. I don't know how else to say it. You know, are you seeing these? A lot of senators have time to do podcasts, I'm seeing these days. A lot of people in Congress are like building their media brands. How about getting in the fight, guys? How about say that Black Lives Matter isn't going to make anyone's lives better right now? How about making that case publicly? Republicans? How about it's going to be bad for minority communities because there'll be less police presence, which means people are less safe, people will die, they'll be attacked, real estate values will go down, the tax base is fleeing from cities. Cities can only exist if they have high taxes to prop up the welfare state that the city operates, not just the federal government, and also all the city jobs and all the services. This is going to be bad for everybody. It's going to be bad for minority communities too. Why aren't they making that case? And people, there's a mentality out there. I've seen this with the Republicans. Yeah, watch it all burn down. It's not our problem. No, it is. It is a problem because the suburbs, because the rest of the country watch what's happening, and they don't think, oh, look at these crazy Democrats. They're never going to win again. They think, what the heck are the Republicans doing? Are those jokers even worth putting in charge? Why are they in power if they can't do anything about this? I mean, I don't see this and anyone who views what has been going on for the last 6 weeks as good for Trump and good for the Republicans should avoid thinking about politics very long because they're going to hurt themselves. This is not good. It's not good because we do not have a cohesive response from the biggest voices, the biggest platformed Republicans out there. It's always just, everyone's relying on Trump. Look what he did in 2016. Is he going to do that again? Others need to rise up now. Others need to take the fight to the other side. I'm telling you, a lot of people are sitting on the sidelines. They as long as they get reelected, or as long as they can keep whatever privileged perch they have in the conservative movement, not willing to actually have the fight, though. Not willing to take a risk. They're not wartime conservatives. We are not a wartime conservative party right now. That's just the truth. It's not too late, but are we going to turn it around?
And this is another hoax. This is purely political. I win at the federal level, and we won very decisively, and so they sent it into New York. And you know what's going on in New York. Everyone's leaving. It's turned out to be a hellhole, and they better do something about it because people are leaving New York. But this is a political witch hunt. It just continues. It's been from before I got here, when Obama and Biden and everybody else was spying on my campaign illegally. They were illegally spying on my campaign. And that's a very grave crime. It's the biggest political crime in the history of our country.
What the president is saying there is true. Everything that he says there is true. It is the biggest political crime in certainly my lifetime. I can't think of anything else that from history really lines up with it. They did spy on him. They did try a coup against him. That's not going to win the election. And I've noticed there are a whole bunch of people in conservative Incorporated who have done very well with the whole Trump Russia stuff, and they're really good fighters on that. But with Black Lives Matter stuff, they're much more. I don't really want to get into this fight as much. This one can be risky. This one's risky. Talking about Papadopoulos and Russia and collusion and the Durham people that are like, oh, the Durham probe. I'm telling you, it's not going to make a difference. I even know people were writing in last night. I'm telling you, it's not going to make a difference. If someone goes to prison because of the Durham probe, it'll be some clown in the DOJ you'd never heard of before. Bank on it. If there was a way I could place bets in Vegas on this. So don't think that that's going to save us. And talking about how we were right all the time with Mueller, we have to push back against the false narrative when they try to use Russia against Trump, which they're already doing, the Russia bounty with the Taliban. It's just craziness. But there are people that, they've basically been one-trick ponies in conservative media for 3 years now with the Russia-Trump collusion thing. It's all they've talked about. And now we need real philosophical responses, real political counterpunches to this left-wing mobilization. And I'm looking around, I'm saying, I know there's Tucker, there are some people who are doing it, of course. But if we're doing it enough, we wouldn't be losing right now. And I'm the one who said to you, over a month ago, we're losing right now. That hasn't changed yet. That has not changed yet. So, and I'm not trying to bum people out. We'll have some fun and talk about, more entertaining things later on the show. But I do think that it's important to be honest about this because we all have a role to play. We all have a part in this fight at the local, at the state, and at the national level. Do whatever we can. You got to determine what that is.